language barrier, low rigor, low self-efficacy. Students don't believe that if they try hard, then they're able to succeed. If they do their best, they can get better. So these are all of the things that the district said, you know what, we are accepting that these are some of the causes within our classrooms and we need to fix it. So let me give you 2 instructional design scenarios. So imagine instructional design number 1. A student has, so as your students enter the junior high school and the high school, your student will have 4 core teachers. And what I mean by that is they'll have an English, science, history, and English teacher, 4 core teachers. Classes range about 24 students to 1 teacher. In some cases, yes, there are 30 students to 1 teacher in a classroom. We always have a highly qualified teacher, that's a given. This one teacher, a teacher will have about 110 students for that academic school year. A teacher is bound by a fixed scope and sequence. And what I mean by that is the teacher has standards, TEKs that they need to go through an academic year. And so the students have to move at this teacher's pace. So I finished 1 unit, which leads me to the next one. So I finished 1 unit. If you master, meaning 70% or better, then we move on. Oh, I'm gonna move on regardless, whether you're ready or not. However, if a student did not earn a 70% or better, guess what? As a district, we're gonna let you retest. And so you all remember retesting. So retesting can mean that, and this is the truth, right? I may get the same test again. I may just have to do corrections, or I may get a different test, but the highest grade that student can make after that retest is the 70, okay? So think about it. They already have at minimum a 30% gap, but we have to move on as a teacher because we are bound by the scope and sequence. Our primary focus with this instructional model is content knowledge. We want to get you to learn this content by the end of this academic year. That is our focus. And then this particular design, it is what we've known since the beginning of time here at Point Isabel ISD. And truthfully, this has been the model, okay, for centuries. This is the typical instructional model. And why do we continue with this instructional design? Because we're comfortable with it. This is how we were taught. This is how our teachers were trained. This is how we've conditioned our students to learn. And that's why we continue to do things that way. So that's instructional design number 1. So now, let me share a second instructional design model with you. The top part hasn't changed. Your child will still have 4 core teachers. Classes will still be about 24 to 1, or maybe even more, 30 to 1. You still have a highly qualified teacher. The teacher still has about 110 students, but this is where it starts to change. Now the teacher has a flexible scope and sequence. Why? Because we're able to leverage the technology we have in the classroom to be able to make it flexible. Students learn at their own pace with the progressive bar available for guidance. So it doesn't mean that we just let a student go. They have to have some type of guidance in order to keep them on track. Now we're raising the bar. 80% is considered mastery for content knowledge, and it's competency based. So a student now will take an assessment over and over again until they have mastered that content. So it's no longer you get a chance to retest once and now you have to move on. A student's going to get it. Along with this content knowledge, we're now coupling that with cognitive skills. So what are cognitive skills? So cognitive skills are the skills that are lifelong skills. So it's helping students develop claims, counterclaims, argumentative claims, skills that they can take with them that don't just apply specifically to a particular content area. Here in this particular model, a student has a mentor. So they're able to meet with an adult at that campus at minimum 10 minutes per week. With this second model, students practice goal setting. So students practice actionable goal setting every week, sometimes even daily for some of their classes. Primary focus here is you have cognitive skills, you have content knowledge, habits of success, and a sense of purpose. Habits of success, when I refer to that, I am talking about teaching your child how to see challenges, how to be persistent when they're struggling, they have that productive struggle, strategy shifting. If something is not working, what did I do that was effective or not effective, and what could I do differently? And then response to setback. Fine, I wasn't successful. How am I going to handle that? So that's what we mean by habits of success. So this particular instructional design is research-based, and it is focused on the student learning experience. And here's the catch. The last thing about this model, though, it's innovative. And with innovation means it's something new. And along with that, there's discomfort with change. And just to be transparent, because it's change, we know this is challenging, and we continue to make adjustments to refine the practices of our teachers.
No, and innovative, but how much change is going to be too much change? As far as, for example, when you were talking about they're going to be retesting and retesting and retesting, at what point are we going to say this child has retested 10, 12 times and he's still not understanding what he's viewing?
Yes.
At what point are we going to just say, okay, you're not getting it, before that red line moves and now it turns into a red and he hasn't mastered it?
Sure. So to answer this particular question, as a student attempts a content assessment multiple times, this is where, as implementing, as teachers, this is where that mentoring piece is so important. So it's trying to, and this is a learning process for teachers and for students, but helping your child recognize, okay, what did you try to do? What worked and what didn't work? Please know that there's also opportunities for workshops. So the difference here is the student will still have access to the teacher, but guess what? It's just not at the beginning anymore. Our students are conditioned to receive the content from the teacher specifically, but now they'll get the content from the platform. However, the teacher is there to provide that support on a personalized level now. So a student doesn't have to sit through all of it. They should be receiving support based off of what they need. And so I admit there are some changes we have to make. There are some things that we are still refining. So yes, there may have been students who assessed 10 times, right? And we are learning from that. But I can tell you, for them to be on track, and we'll get to this in a moment, if your child has passed minimum 2 focus content areas, and you'll learn more about that in the platform, in every content area, by the 10 weeks, they're in good shape. They're developing those skills. And I know in our mind, we panic. Everything to us is grade-based. It's an average. It's, what grade did you get? And that's what we're used to. So your child should be receiving the support that they need in order to help them be successful. It may just take them longer to get there.
Because he had to come in for tutoring after school and before school to get to where he was supposed to be. And that's not where I'm understanding the 10 minutes with the mentor.
Sure. So we can definitely have this conversation to talk specifically about your child to see what's being done for them.
Because I'm going to meet with his mentor tomorrow. But we're already at the 6 weeks, and obviously it's not working for him.
Sure. So those are definitely something that we can discuss. Okay. And then I can even help you prior to meeting with them. Okay. So to move on. So now let's move on to student outcomes. With the Project Sales Summit Learning Model, these are the outcomes that we're looking at. Cognitive skills. So these are, like I shared, those transferable lifelong skills. So developing skills that may not happen when you're just trying to learn the content knowledge. Content knowledge right here is understanding of the application of the fundamental content. So we're talking about, do I know about algebraic equations? Am I understanding what I'm learning in history? So this is strictly content, and just know previously, this is where our focus was before with content knowledge. But now with the student outcomes, we've added habits of success. These are the mindsets and behaviors that our students will attain, which will support their well-being. And the last one is a sense of purpose. So self-awareness, pursuit of self-interest, and goals. And if you notice, our students felt like they didn't really have someone that they could trust, that they could talk to, and they spent a lot of time with us. So we had to be able to adjust that during the instructional day. Moving on, the district established 5 pillars. They are collaborative relationships, student agency, rigor and relevance, personalized pathways, and data-driven instruction. These 5 pillars are district-wide. So from pre-K all the way to 12th grade, this is what we're using to design the student learning experience. And so just so that you know, the Summit learning model aligned with the pillars that we had established. So if it wouldn't have been Summit, it would have been something else. But we knew that we had to make adjustments. So if you look at collaborative relationships, this is during mentoring, happens during mentoring time, during their personalized learning time and project-based time. So they're able to interact with their peers, they're able to interact with the content, they're able to meet with a trusting adult, someone who they can talk to. Student agency. This is where we get students to start to create their goals. So goal setting, long-term and short-term goals. They learn to monitor their progress. Students will be given the option to be able to opt in for workshops. Now that is something that has to be taught. So initially a teacher may call students to the workshop, but later on we want students to recognize, when should I go seek help? Okay, so these are skills we're developing in your child. Rigor and relevance. So the playlist, the projects, having rigorous small group workshops with the teachers. Personalized pathways, students get to learn at their own pace and not at the pace of the teacher. And then the last one is data-driven instruction. Our teachers are using this data in order to provide that targeted support that your child needs. And I can tell you something about this, is typically students will feel the struggle that some of your students will be experiencing if your child decides to go to college. It typically happens their freshman year in college. When they're struggling, they're unsure of, the teacher gave me all of this content that I'm supposed to read. How do I keep up? The teacher is no longer just giving me strategies on how to take an assessment. What do I do? So what we're doing now is we're transferring that cognitive lift, the thinking, to your child, and we're starting them now. So that way, by the time they leave our district, they will be so much more prepared for the college or career of their choice. And that is what we're trying to develop using this particular model. So the next part, we're going to, you've probably already heard this, but we're going to talk about the actual pillars within the Summit Learning Model, and there's 3 of them. And for this particular section, Monique will be sharing this.
There are 3 specific pillars that go with Summit Learning. Our 3 pillars are our one-to-one mentorship, real-world projects, and individual pathways, which happen during PLT. Project and concept units. Students develop cognitive skills as they work alongside teachers and classmates during project time. Now, project time is very different as compared to a traditional classroom. During project time, more students are not being assessed necessarily on the content that is supposed to be in that class, but on the cog skills. We want your students to be able to apply these skills within these projects. So that's why the assessment is a little bit different during project time as compared to content-based assessments. During math, your students will be learning math concepts, which are also based off of a rubric. So during math time, they have concept time, project time, and PLT time. Concept time is where your students are digging in deep in their math class and learning the conceptual ways of how to solve math problems. During this time, both cognitive skills and concept unit skills are graded off of a rubric that is used from 6th grade all the way up until their 12th grade. It is the same rubric with the same language. So the students become familiar with it as they go through the grade levels. Personalized learning time. This is where your students receive their content. This is their focus areas, their playlists. During this time, students work on an individual pathway as they are going to learn their content. This content is then assessed with a 10-question quiz that must receive an 80 or higher in order to receive mastery. Now, we did say that the student can take the assessment multiple times. They can retest. Here's the difference between a retest and an assessment. The retest is not the same questions. You are receiving content questions from a bank. So the student can take this assessment, if need be, 10 times, but that does not mean they're going to see the same questions every single time. So it's not that, oh, they will just manage to perfect the questions. No, the questions will change every time to ensure that your student is learning the content and learning the skill. Mentoring time. This is a big one. And the reason why I say this is a big one is because I actually taught with Summit for 2 years. And I loved mentoring. This was the part that, to me, I wanted to be a teacher for. I got to build these relationships with these students that I needed that. You end up becoming one of your students' best friends. They want to talk to you. And they want to spend that 10 minutes with you because they want to tell you not just about, their day, their friends. No, Miss, I passed my test today. You should have seen it. Miss, I was able to get a 4 on that cog skill. This is what I did. When they're excited to talk to you about academics, that's something completely different. And how often do your kids truly come home and they're excited to tell you, Mom, guess what I learned about today? Whereas now they can come home and tell you, Mom, I passed that test. Do you know how long it took me to do that, but I did it? That's fulfillment. Your mentor helps your child reach that fulfillment. They spend 10 minutes with them just talking about them, only them, their passion. What is it that they need? If they can help your child build those goals and build that relationship, I promise you, those relationships will continue. To this day, my very first mentees still email me and send me work to grade. And I love it. Mentoring will be the biggest part for your student. If they can build a great relationship with that teacher, they will build a great bond and they will help each other. The grading. I know there's a big question about grading, so let's really get into it. The grades are no longer an average. We're used to that. We're used to every 9 weeks we get that report card. We know by the end of the year, those 4 grades will average out. We're gonna get our grade. The students now will have a progressive grade, which means that as your student continues to grow with their math skill, English skill, history, you name it, their grade will grow as well. So as we go through the year, it is no longer passing and failing. It's now on track or off track. PLT, the content, is 30% of the grade, whereas the projects and concept units are 70% of the grade. If you have math has concept units, which is 40%, projects 30, and PLT 30. I understand it's a lot of different percentages, and I apologize. But I promise you that as your child continues to move through the focus areas and grow with their projects, their grade grows with them. On track versus off track. On track means that your student has currently mastered all of the focus areas, which is our content, that has currently passed the blue line. So our blue line is our pacing bar. And we always try to say, the blue line should catch up to you, you should not be catching up to the blue line. But we also know that everybody works at their own pace. And so the expectation is that as long as you finish these focus areas, you are on track. Now, projects and concept units. As long as your students have completed the work within a project, have turned the projects in on a due date, and that is something new as well. We now have due dates. The students need to learn about when things are due and when we must turn stuff in, and they have to submit them. So as long as no projects are overdue, grades have been put in, and focus areas are completed and in the green, they are on track. If a student is off track, that means that the student has just fallen behind in one of these areas. Whether it's they have not yet mastered a focus area, or they maybe haven't been able to turn in a project on time, or maybe one of their cognitive skills is a little lower than expected. But the beauty of it is that any student can redo any cog skill in order to receive a higher score. Exploring the Summit platform.
So this leads us to our next section, and don't worry, believe me, there'll be a time for questions and answers at the end. But right now we're gonna personalize this experience for you. So we're gonna give you a choice. So at this time, those of you who would like to log into the platform, if you could please find a seat at the computer. We have your login information here, or maybe you already know how to log in, but you have some questions about it. We'll help you navigate. Those of you who would like to talk to a teacher, to an administrator, this is your chance as well. So we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for this particular section, but I'm leaving it up to you so that you can pick what best meets your needs. Okay, so right now we get break.